picture this. You're at a parade that represents something important to you. Things are fun, you're enjoying yourself. I mean, things are really going well, and then all of a sudden you start getting rained on. And then you realize, wait, this isn't rain. Someone is purposely pouring water down on you and everyone here, and then you double realize that it's neither rain or water, but rather someone is peeing on you. And no, I'm not talking to those who are into that sort of thing. You freaks don't count. You're getting peed on, and it's not like everything is necessarily ruined. You can still wash off somehow and keep going, but it definitely dampers the vibe that was going on. That's basically what just happened in New York with the Yankees. The Yankees have been in a rough stretch lately, and actually a lot more than lately for the last 15 years. Now, if you told that to a Mariners fan or something, they'd probably slap you across the face, understandably so, considering the Yankees have been to the postseason 10 times in the last 15 years. But as most of you probably know, the Yankees have a different standard for success than most franchises throughout all of sports. It makes sense. I mean, they're quite literally the most successful and winning franchise in the history of sports. Now, how many people really care about the Yankees championships they won from like 1923 to like the early 60s? Sure, those matter and they count, but not many people, if anyone in the entire world, can really relate to those championships anymore. You can't really brag about them. That's kind of the point. It's a new era now. Red Sox fans, Astros fans, they have more to brag about than Yankees fans over the last 15 to 20 years. Things have changed. Despite the constant playoff appearances and contending teams, the great history the Yankees have makes it that anything less than a championship is disappointing, which kind of sucks in a way. That constant pressure and expectation to be the best, but it is what it is. And so the fact that the Yankees not only just not winning the World Series since 2009 is a crazy thing, they haven't even made it to a World Series since. Again, doesn't compare to what Mariners fans have to deal with, but it's all relative. So because of all this, Yankees fans are more thirsty for a championship than Framber Valdez and random girls' DMs. It's been way too long for what's supposed to be expected from this historic franchise. And I feel like over the years, there's been some sort of consensus, at least a little bit, that the Yankees have become cheap and aren't willing to spend that much money. They become way too analytical and reluctant to spend the way they used to, and I'm sorry, I think it's pretty silly to go with that narrative, considering some of the massive contracts the Yankees have given out and gotten themselves into. Like, you just can't say the Yankees are cheap. You can say maybe they've put some money on the wrong players. Giancarlo Stanton trade, a trade that had the Yankees take on one of the biggest contracts in baseball history, hasn't really worked out that greatly. Stanton does provide some value if he's healthy and of course hits the ball harder than anyone in the league, but he's very obviously not worth what he's currently on the books for and will be for more years. So you can maybe provide some argument there as far as maybe the front office making questionable moves with contracts. But when Garrett Cole is making $36 million a year for 9 years, the richest contract in baseball history for a pitcher before Yoshinobu Yamamoto said what's up, and Aaron Judge is making $40 million a year for 9 years, and Carlos Rodon $27 million for 6 years, they're clearly not. But that doesn't totally exempt either of them from criticism, especially with Hal Steinbrenner and what he just had to say. Last year, when the Baltimore Orioles were in the midst of the best season they've had in many years, while everyone was happy, while everyone was starting to see the light at the end of the dark tunnel Oriole fans had been riding for like 7 years. In fact, at this point, they were out of that tunnel, into the light. Things were great. Yet what did their owner, John Angelos, decide to do? Basically spit in the faces of the fans. Like, imagine if you've kind of been starved for years, not being fed that well, and all of a sudden you start getting a big quantity of quality food, like really good food, and just as you're enjoying it, your rich boss tells you to enjoy it while it lasts because he's not really going to attempt to keep you in this position with this excessive food. And you're definitely going to have to start paying a lot more money for it all. Angelos came out and said that the Orioles will need to raise ticket prices in order to keep the young players that the Orioles now have. Oh, and he actually said dramatically too. He didn't even hesitate on being like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to be making the prices of going to games even more unaffordable, like by a lot too. Thanks everyone. Just an awful thing for any owner to do, especially in the middle of the franchise and the fans starting to see the fruits of their labor after years of losing. Thankfully, there's a happy ending to this story, considering that buffoon who probably likes getting peed on no longer partly owns the Orioles. There's a new group now led by David Rubenstein that recently officially bought the team. He's already a fan favorite, so things are going well over there. Up in the Bronx, Hal Steinbrenner, for whatever reason, decided to take a move out of John Angelos' playbook and pee on everybody. The Yankees are currently having a great start to the season. An unexpectedly great start, even though they have a lot of good players. The pitching especially was uncertain, even with Garrett Cole, let alone without him, but the team's actually been great. Aaron Judge started off slow, and it was the most ridiculous thing ever because people were freaking out, taking it so seriously for no reason. I never once worried about Aaron Judge's production, and I never believed there was any reason to, considering how insanely early it was, and of course, as expected, he's now back to being one of, if not baseball's best hitter. The rest of the Yankee lineup has been good overall. The pitching has been otherworldly, to be honest with you. At least it seems that way compared to how I and so many others expected it to be. Every single human in that starting rotation has been a Cy Young contender, or at least borderline, and I'm not exaggerating. They're all doing well. Clay Holmes is back to being one of the best relievers in the game. The drunken domestic abuser who mocks his own teammates is no longer with the team, which may be the biggest win of them all. It really has been going well in the Bronx, especially compared to how things are going over in Queens, where people are just about ready to jump off a bridge. Okay, that was dark. Actually, please, if you have any thoughts like that, call or text 988 and get help immediately. I'll tell you who doesn't need any help right now, though, and that's the New York Yankees, or at least most of their players. And as good as all the guys I've mentioned so far have been, there's one that has really taken everyone by storm, and that's of course Juan Soto. He's been just about as great as Judge. None of it is surprising. Nobody's looking at Juan Soto's numbers like Indiana Jones when he discovers some crazy artifact or something. But it's exciting stuff for the Yankees and their fans, because Soto is so young, he's really embracing being a Yankee, and to have someone like this on your franchise for the next 10 plus years, or whatever, is mouth-watering to think about. Whoever you like, anyone would love Juan Soto on their team for a long time. But thanks to Hal Steinbrenner, he just really dampened the mood on Yankees fans enjoying Soto, because at the recent owners meetings that took place, Steinbrenner was asked about the Yankees payroll moving forward, saying, "What I always say to you guys is like a broken record. I don't believe I should have to have a $300 million payroll to win a championship." And then followed that up with more words of discouragement for Yankees fans. Quote, "Look, I'm going to be honest, payrolls at levels we're at right now are simply not sustainable for us financially. They wouldn't be sustainable for the vast majority of owners, given the luxury tax we have to pay. We have a considerable amount of money coming off. We didn't have a whole lot of money coming off last offseason, which is why we're at where we're at." Now, okay, so is he saying the Yankees won't be re-signing Juan Soto? Obviously not. He's not saying that. But to say blatantly that their payroll isn't very sustainable surely doesn't promise the opposite scenario. So in reality, what really would need to happen is for the Yankees to get a lot of money off the books, which of course was going to happen. It's definitely doable. But when Soto is expected to get the next closest thing to Shohei Ohtani's contract, when you already have these big contracts, like I mentioned before, on your team, that definitely doesn't make things any more simple, and an owner prioritizing saving money is the last thing you want to hear in a situation like this. When the Yankees traded for Juan Soto, I assumed they were just going to re-sign him, and I assumed that to be the case for any team that theoretically got him, because why on earth would you trade anything of value for just 1 year of Juan Soto? Obviously, you're going to keep him for the long haul. It's been said for a while now that Scott Boras, of course, and Soto want to, and are at least likely will be testing the free agent market without taking an extension from the Yankees. And after Soto's latest comments, that seems as likely as ever. Imagine being in a relationship, outwardly being like, "Oh, I'm so down to leave. If there's a better person somewhere else for me, I'm gone. Absolutely. Oh, for sure." Screaming it to the mountaintops. That's basically what Juan Soto just said. Okay, obviously not that dramatically, but when asked about his upcoming offseason where he'll be a free agent, Soto said, "We ain't closing the door on anybody." At the end of it all, I still really do believe Juan Soto will end up signing a big contract with the Yankees. I know the Mets have been talked about for the longest time, and that's of course a possibility, but I just have a really hard time seeing the Yankees trading for Juan Soto just to have him for this year alone. That doesn't make sense to me, but neither do these comments from Steinbrenner. Now, are there players on this team you can do without and not pay what they're currently making? Sure. Yeah, definitely. You can most definitely go without paying $17 million to Anthony Rizzo and $14 million to Gleyber Torres, or $8 million to Alex Verdugo. Trent Grisham is another smaller deal you can get off the books. So there are plenty of candidates to move on from to help lessen the payroll, but you're also the New York Yankees, and to outwardly say anything along the lines of spending lots of money is bad is not the way to go. It just can't be. And I also don't understand why Steinbrenner felt the need to even say this out loud to begin with. Why couldn't he just not answer the question rather than what he ended up doing, which was putting a cloud over the success the Yankees are currently having? It certainly doesn't make anybody feel better about the team keeping Juan Soto, which to me feels like a must for the Yankees. You don't trade for a guy like that just to have him for 6 months, especially not the New York frickin' Yankees. The team isn't cheap, obviously, but to say stuff like this in the middle of a very important time with big decisions to make for the franchise while they're also winning doesn't seem like the right way to go for the owner of any team, let alone the owner of the New York Yankees. And it's clearly also something the fans and even the players don't want or need to hear. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.